Hello, everyone, and welcome to Deaf Mute Studio. This is the Murmur by Deaf podcast, and I am joined by Ged Backland. Hello, Ged.
Hello.
So, Ged, well, first of all, I owe you a massive apology. And I owe anyone watching this an apology because I've lured you all here under false pretenses. This is the podcast. So throw away your notes because you should be all right. You should know this one off by heart. So it does involve Ivan Reitman, but we're actually going to be talking about 2006's Super Ex-Girlfriends. Tell us why it's so good.
Yeah, well, I've got no notes on that, so I'll have to skip that one, you bastard.
No, okay, well, we are talking about Ghostbusters, and recently the new trailer for Afterlife has come out, which has a lot of people very happy. And I'd like to take this moment just to go through the life of the Ghostbusters franchise, really, because it's lived a very strange life. Whereas, really, now we should have had its own trilogy, and really spinning off and doing some sort of Star Wars type shtick with a new trilogy, a prequel trilogy and whatnot, but it's had a bit of a development issues. So we'll start off with the birth of it all, which is Ghostbusters 1, Budget Ghostbusters. So before we start, I've another confession.
You've never seen it.
Well, the confession being is, although I do like Ghostbusters, I'm not that big of a fan, which is odd considering the time period I grew up in. And it seems to be these days, if you're not a fan of Ghostbusters or Back to the Future, then you should be taken outside and shot, because it's just an odd thing to not love and deal like with all your heart. But I've got nothing against the films. I like them. I just don't love them as much as everyone else. So Ged, the first Ghostbusters, what do you love about it so much?
Well, first of all, I completely get. I mean, since knowing you, you've never, been super passionate about Ghostbusters. You've mentioned you've never had a bad word to say, but you've never seemed truly passionate. And I'm not surprised, to be honest. I mean, it's funny you mentioned Star Wars, because there's loads of notes that I've made to compare Ghostbusters to Star Wars, especially with the new one coming out. But yeah, I think it's got a bit of a Star Wars thing going. Like the way you say you're not passionate about it at all. Completely get it. The whole Star Wars thing. I didn't grow up with Star Wars. I was, obviously a little bit young to catch them at the first ones when they came out. But even friends of ours and my partners absolutely love Star Wars. She grew up with it. I just don't have that same passion. I think Ghostbusters is something you have to have watched when you were quite young to really have that passion about. I mean, it is the film that I've watched the most easily in my life, and some of my earliest memories revolve around that film. I was thinking about it earlier, that some of the earliest memories I've got seem to involve it in that way, and it's just been a constant throughout my life, even from childhood, and then it kind of slipped out of my eye line in a way, and things like Turtles and wrestling, everything else became more popular. But around the age of about 13, 14, when I started watching films again, I remember watching it thinking, oh, this is silly, I'm watching a kid's film. But straight away, and when I watched it again at 13, 14, there was just something there that I just absolutely loved. And as I've grown older and I got the tone more and the comedy more, and yeah, I watched it the last time was back in February, and I just think it's absolutely perfect. they don't make them like that. A lot of people say this about films that they're into now. You don't make films like Ghostbusters anymore. One thing that I found really of watching it recently was apart from the ghosts, obviously that's the attraction for kids and stuff. Apart from the ghost scenes, I mean, I don't know what else the kid is actually getting from the, a lot of the humour's quite grown up. A lot of the scares can be quite grown up as well. And I was surprised that a kid will enjoy it that much, but it's still happening. I've got nephews now who are proper into it, really young. And yeah, there just seems to be something about it that gets you as a kid. If it gets you as a kid, I think you get the passion for it, and I think it stays. But if it wasn't something that you watched over and over again, and you didn't grow up with it, I can understand why you can take it or leave it. It's they don't make them like that anymore, and I don't know. I can't explain what that film means to me in a couple of sentences. Really, I can't.
No, I remember when we first met in college, and it was in media, and people are going around, what's your favourite film? What's your favourite film? Everyone was going, oh, Shawshank Redemption or Goodfellas, The Godfather, and then it'd get to you and you go, Ghostbusters, and everyone would burst out laughing. And you go, what the fuck is so funny? It's a great
never so serious. It's funny now, because if somebody asked me now, what's your favourite film, the cool part of it would be like, oh, it's Mulholland Drive, actually. Or I go, well, if we're talking serious, it's Clockwork Orange, or it's a grown up film. Realistically, Ghostbusters is my favourite film and always will be. And there's again, it's something that you grow up with. You actually grow up with it, and it's one of the reasons we'll talk about the trailer later on a bit more. When I was feeling unwell the other day when the trailer came on, and I'd been to sleep, and I woke up and watched the trailer because it had been released. And by the end of the trailer, when Ray picks up the phone, and I got really, really emotional there in his voice. It was like he was alive. This thing was alive, and it grew up with me, and it's older now, and I got really emotional, and it's something special. I could talk about it for hours. I'm planning to.
Well, I know what you mean, especially with films being linked to your childhood. You get it young. Mm-hmm. It's like, for me, it's Flash Gordon. Mm-hmm. But if someone wants a serious answer out of me, serious film, I'll go Once Upon a Time in the West. But really, it's always Flash Gordon. So I completely that. So with the first Ghostbusters, it's the original. It's always the beloved one. I think it's a great film, despite the fact I have no deep love for it. Mm-hmm. But the sequel, Ghostbusters 2, always has that section of fans that hate on it. And for me, I don't really know why, because I think it's a really good film.
It really was. I wasn't aware of how much people didn't like, even fans of Ghostbusters that I know, and are you into oh yeah, I'm into Ghostbusters, and then they're like, no, not the second one, no. And I wasn't aware of this hatred for a long time, and it still puzzles me. I don't understand how you can like the first one so much and then just totally disregard the second one completely. I think they're very, very similar. I think the tone of them, so maybe Ghostbusters 2 is slightly more kid orientated. I think the real Ghostbusters animation had been out in between the two, and that was definitely obviously aimed at children, and because the first one had such success with children, I think they tried to aim it a little bit more towards children. Slime is now friendly and things like that. But overall, it's pretty much the same. I don't get what the hatred for it is. The humour's the same. I don't know. I don't know why they don't like it. I love it. I love it just as much, I think.
Yeah, well, out of all of them, I've got a more of an affinity with that one, because I actually remember going the pictures to see it and being terrified by Vigo.
Yeah, he's a scary dude. I mean, I think I kind of came full circle Ghostbusters 2, and I was terrified of Vigo, and he's still unsettling to look at. But when I was I worked in a call center around 2006, and we were all new, and we all had to do the icebreaker, introduce each other, and we had to play this game where you had to guess who the person was by the description that somebody else had written about you. And somebody said he looked like Vigo from Ghostbusters 2, and I thought, that's me. That's the long hair and the moody, serious face, and so yeah, I've kind of eased off on him a bit. He's not that bad.
He's a good,
He's just misunderstood. I mean, you're trapped in a painting for a millennia. You're going to get upset, aren't you?
It's not his fault for trying to. I was going to say enter a baby. That's
that's not this like a podcast.
That's a different film altogether.
Yeah, that's the cut we haven't seen.
Yeah, that's. Is that Operation You Treated or?
Yes. I love Ghostbusters too. I'm a big fan. I don't argue with anybody about it. Again, you talked about college. I think again, going back to my point about Ghostbusters being with me my whole life, it appears at important moments, and it helps me. It's helped me at important moments. Saying Ghostbusters is my favourite film. I think it kind of telling people what your favourite film is it's a massive indication of who you are. I mean, if somebody says, "Oh, it's Goodfellas," you think, "Oh, sake." Or whatever answer you give.
Scarface.
It's like you haven't even seen it. It's a massive indication of who you are, and I think if I had to describe myself and me personally, I think Ghostbusters is pretty spot on. I love daft stuff, and Ghostbusters is very daft. It's sarcastic, and it's got a wry humour as well, and I think it's a really good choice. But using Ghostbusters as a crutch almost in my life. That you mentioned college earlier. I remember that the first time I actually formulated a sentence and spoke to yourself and Matt and Jordan, our other friends. We were in the photography room. Was it red room? What was it? A dark room? They called the photography room.
Yes,
the red light.
Dark room. Yeah. Dark room.
Yeah. Because we had to do some photography thing, and the only thing you three are getting on fine. You three are talking. I'm really shy, and I thought, what can I say here? And I just came up with, this reminds me of Ghostbusters 2, where the photos of Vigo go on fire, and you all started laughing, and that was it. I was in. I was just like, I've done it. I've used Ghostbusters and I'm in. And yeah, it's just been there, and it's very, very important for those reasons, really.
Actually, I've forgotten all about that, but yeah, I remember.
That was very, very early on. That was like a day or two in.
Yeah, wow. My God. It's all downhill from there.
It's all downhill. And here we are, is it 20 years now? 20 years later, talking about it.
Jesus. So with Ghostbusters 2, which was, I believe, an absolute hit.
Yeah.
We go into the troubled production of Ghostbusters Hellbent. Is it Hellbent?
Hmm? Yeah. It was the subtitle Hellbent, yeah. Ghostbusters 3 Hellbent, yeah.
I've seen a few videos about it, and it seemed great to me. Like, really high concept. It's New York, but it's like a hellscape because they've crossed over.
Mm.
And then it didn't happen. Now I've heard it's all Bill Murray.
Mm. Well, yeah. The reason I started using the internet was Ghostbusters 3. I mean, the internet had been around a bit. I was about 14. I was never interested in it. I was just like, no, MSN chatting. It just wasn't my thing. But yeah, I don't know where I found out, but yeah, there's rumours of Ghostbusters 3. So I go on the internet for the first time, and there was this really basic website called Mr. Stay Puft's World of Sounds. And thinking back now, it was just a website with clips of audio clips of the film, nothing visual. Just you click on a button and a clip from the film would play. But it was
Get Ray.
Yeah, it was the best thing in the world to me. And it just had all this weird Ghostbusters content. But there was one page you clicked on, and it said Ghostbusters Hell Went, and they had this really basic image of a Statue of Liberty, but all the sky was red. And I thought that was actually a still from the third one. And my excitement went through the roof. I was like, oh, it's happening. And then there was a Ghostbusters, like a chat forum thing. And everybody in there would be talking about it. And I got convinced that it was happening. And yeah, I think they called it Manhattan was going to be the concept. So it was Manhattan just at a switch of a button or equipment, it switched into the hellish version of Manhattan. So I remember reading that and thinking that's a fantastic concept and all the rest. But even at 14, 15 and not being a movie producer, I thought that's going to cost too much, though, isn't it? And that was me worry.
Financial side.
I mean, I was and still am a very anxious and nervy person, and that was my immediate thought. They're not going to get the budget to do that. He's going to have to rewrite it. I really like the idea, but it's just going to cost it. In 1999, I think the Matrix was just about to come on, so the technology wasn't there, and I was really worried about how they were going to achieve it, and I thought it's not going to happen. But yeah, I think a major reason was Bill Murray's refusal to do anything to do with it. Bill Murray hated and still does hate Ghostbusters too. He's so disappointed with how that turned out and was frustrated. I think that put him off majorly, the idea of doing anything else with it. So yeah, apparently Sigourney Weaver said no as well. Whether they needed it or not, I don't really know. You don't need. She'd had two massive supernatural events happen to her already. I don't think mentally she was going to cope with Manhattan turning into hell. She's already had a baby taken off her and being possessed by a dog. So how much can one woman take? But they wouldn't have needed it. But obviously they need Bill Murray and his refusal to do it. I think the timing of it, 90, I think mid to late 90s, might have worked, but I don't know. The longer it goes on, you're like, I don't know. I mean, the effects and stuff. I mean, the massive part of the first two films to me are the practical effects and those early sort of computer effects. The pterodogs and the mix of animatronics and really ropey CGI that lend a charm to it. The same with Ghostbusters too. Some of the ghosts in that look really ropey. Some of them look quite good. But by 99, I think they would have started trying to we'll just CGI, and ended up look like Spawn or something like that. With the CGI, it's like PlayStation 1 stuff.
Yeah, or the end of Blaze.
The Blood God at the end of Blade, yeah. No, it would have ended up like that, and it probably would have lost a lot of its charm. I think now is the perfect time to need the sequel, but we'll get into that shortly. But sorry, go on.
Sorry, yeah, no, I completely agree. If it would have been then, it wouldn't have worked. I think it had a specific. It had a certain window for the trilogy where it could all look very similar and coherent, and not a mishmash of different technologies from different times. Mm-hmm. And as soon as Bill Murray says no to that in the early 90s, then it's gone. Like you've missed your window, because technology, like you said, would have advanced to a certain degree, not for the better, obviously.
Yeah.
And everyone's leaning away from physical effects and going just CGI and mad. So,
and that film would have been full of it. It would have had to have been to turn into hell, or it would have been full of it.
Yeah, it would have looked just a little bit more worse than the Star Wars prequel trilogy.
Yeah, that's about the pounds. Yeah. Yeah. No, not the best idea. I mean, he had some of the ideas as well, like Oscar, baby Oscar from number 2 would be growing up and things like that. And I always thought, that's an okay enough idea. Already they were thinking about passing it on to the next generation and stuff. And there are bits of the script knocking about on the internet from that draft. Which, yeah, you read it and you're like, I don't know, maybe not. But yeah, it'll be the film that never was. And again, thinking from a producer's point of view as well, I'm worrying about the financial aspects. We're talking about Bill Murray not doing it, but you forget really with Bill Murray, he did Groundhog Day in '93 when his star was still quite high. And for me, that's his best performance, Groundhog Day, I think, from start to finish. That's peak Bill Murray. But after that, he dropped off. Nobody saw him, and I think he did a couple of flops. So by the time they're starting to think about Ghostbusters 3, it's like, is he a big enough? From a producer's point of view, from the marketing point of view, we've got Bill Murray, we've got. So yeah, I mean, probably the Ghostbusters name would have pushed it forward if but it was just everything was good. They had, I think, Ghostbusters 84, Ghostbusters 2, 89, and then I think you had 2, 3, maybe 4 years to make another one with that same sort of core group. But I think quite a few people were disappointed, not just fans, obviously, but people who made it. Even now, you get Ghostbusters 2 doesn't get the same love, even from the people who made them. You very rarely hear them talking about the second one. All the retro stuff, you got the art book, and it all just seems to be geared towards the first film. It's the first film that people want to get almost like, DVD releases for a long, long time. You couldn't get Ghostbusters 2 on Blu-ray. It just didn't exist. We started including it now, but a lot of the time just pumping it in with the first one. Oh yeah, it's a double set. You've got to buy the second one if you want this. So yeah, it's never had the same love. So all that was in the minds, and I don't think 3 would have happened for a lot of reasons at the time.
But in a way, it's not like no one got to see 3. Didn't they turned it into a game, didn't they?
So yeah, the video game. It's not. They've Dan Aykroyd at the time was like, this is the third film. This is officially the sequel, and it's set in 1991. And it's like, amazingly, even Bill Murray lent his voice to the character. So it's all the same cast. And when they were treating us as a third film, it was all dead exciting. When I played the game, I was quite disappointed, to be honest, because it kind of felt like it's just, this is just picking up the legacy of the first film again. This is just, most of the, you're in the New York Public Library, State Bush Marshmallow Lands, and it's like, this is just picking leaning on the first film again. It's not really. It was like its own separate story in a way, but just not enough. And again, the second one was, apart from the painting of Vigo, which is in the firehouse in the game, and it talks to you, which is pretty cool. It wasn't. I wasn't buying it, and there was no alternative. There wasn't a hellscape. It wasn't that version. Oh. It was just like this own sort of. I think the mayor was possessed, and Gozer was back, and it just wasn't the film that he was planning at the time. I was great, and now I'm grateful for it, especially knowing that we're getting something else.
So we'll go to. So Ghostbusters was the birth franchise. Ghostbusters 2 is the turbulent teenage years, and as is Afterlife, where that's just really old age, really just creeping up. So we go to the death, or the symbolic death of the Ghostbusters franchise, which is the 2016 version, or strangely called Ghostbusters Answer the Call. I don't know what that means.
It's a very, and I you know what, and I don't think he added that little subtitle until after they released the film, because I remember it coming out on DVD and Sky and things, and it was like Answer the Call. I was like, I wasn't called that. What? I'm not answering that call. Ignore that.
Straight to voicemail.
Yeah, it was never called that, and it's a very, very strange. I don't know why. I don't know whether because I know it didn't get the best reviews and not a lot of love. I don't know whether the Sony panicked and were like, we need to label this as something, not just Ghostbusters 2016. It was something else. This is a Ghostbusters film, but eventually we can ignore it. Whatever it's called, Answer the Call. Don't watch that.
Yeah, I always thought it was like a territory thing because, say, X-Men 2, when that came out, over here it was just called X-Men 2. But over in the States, it was called X-Men 2 or X-Men United.
No, yeah.
So obviously it couldn't be called that over here because we think of football. Like, the mutants have got a football team now.
Xavier in goal. Al Wheels.
Cyclops down the wing. But yeah, it's now with Ghostbusters 2016 or Answer the Call. There was a lot of kickoff about the gender switch, and there was a lot of naughtiness online from the online community regarding the cast, towards the cast really and the creators. And during the build-up, I was quite sympathetic towards the cast. I was like, we've not seen the finished product yet. Let's give it a watch. And when I did watch it, I'll be honest, I didn't think it was all that bad.
Mm-hmm.
But in preparation of this podcast, I watched it again. And my God, it's awful. I've had a complete switch around. It's one word to describe it perfectly is tedious.
Right. Well, I mean, I've had the opposite. I've admittedly on the when it was announced, I was devastated. Again, growing up with something, you've got a certain idea of what it should be. You feel like you own it, which is obviously silly. You don't own anything. And I was just devastated because it felt that announcing a whole woman cast, I don't know, it just felt like I felt almost provocative. It was like, we're going to do something completely different. It was like, it doesn't need to be. And Paul Feig. I'd loved Bridesmaids. I thought it was hilarious.
Very good film.
It was a really, really funny film. He's done episodes of The American Office, some of my favourite ones. And I'm like, he's got the ability to make a decent film. He knows what funny is. I just didn't understand why he needed to take the cast and crew that he was happy working with and just get involved in the Ghostbusters thing. And I was just like, it just felt a bit gimmicky. I don't know. And I was really, really wound up at the time, and I was not looking forward to it at all. And when I went to see it, I had that fit. I was just like, you know what? It didn't make me laugh. I didn't take to it at all. I was like, it's confusing. I don't get why the villain is doing what the human guy is. Is it Roland? We was discussing this recently.
It's Roland.
In the version I remember watching, the theatrical one, there was just no reason as to why he was doing what he was doing. I was like, there's no point to that. I don't get it. And I just felt like it didn't make me laugh. It felt too improvised, and I like improvisation. And I love it when it works. It just felt too full of it, and it was leaning on it a bit too heavy.
Oh, 100%. I feel like watching it again, there were some genuinely really funny lines in there, but you'd miss them because of the amount of improv and the amount of waffle really, and dragging out a really subpar joke. Elongating that. It was very, at points it was quite painful to watch, and you got the impression that everyone was was struggling to be the funny one. They all wanted to be the Venkman, and no one wants to play it serious, and it just didn't work. It was messy with the first the first two Ghostbusters films. They weren't a flat out comedy.
Mm-hmm. That's right,
There was drama there. There was motivation. There was character arcs. But with the 2016 one, they didn't even lean into any horror elements. It was just played straight up as a comedy. And the one thing I picked up on it watching it again is none of it's at night until the final third of the film.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't noticed that. Yeah.
Like none of it, like no suspense or anything like that. Straight up, you've just gone right down the road and gone for comedy. Which, although Ghostbusters is funny, it's not primarily a comedy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's strange, as I say. I didn't like it when I went to see the pictures, and it's kind of been chipping away at me. I watched it on DVD, and I was like, for the first time since the picture, I was like, okay, well, I didn't hate it that much this time. And then I caught a bit of it on TV, and one or two of the jokes just really, really made me laugh. I think when they're down in the subway and there's the subway ghost, I guess he's going to Queens. That proper got me down.
Yeah, that train's going to Brooklyn. He's the third worst thing on that train.
On that train, yeah. I think she's got some of the best lines, Pat, in that. But yeah, some of the jokes landed with me, and then I bought it in HMV, like it said extended version. It was like $2.99 on Blu-ray, and I was like, all right, okay, I'll get it. And I watched it, and I was like, you know what, I don't hate this film. I can. It exists separately to the first two. There's no, I don't attach it at all to the first two. I'm not upset with it. It's not the same as the first two, and supposedly, I suppose he wasn't trying to make exactly the same. I thought it had enough nods to the original. I liked the cameos, and yeah. I don't mind it for what it is by itself. That's fine. I understand why they're upset they didn't get another one. But people just didn't like it enough, and you can't. You just got to move. You're all talented enough to go and do other things, and they will, and that's it.
I think it was a good thing that it happened, and it happened so well badly, really, because. I think because of that, that's why we're getting Afterlife, and that's how it shone a light how not to do Ghostbusters, and it didn't need a fresh new look or a fresh new take. It needed to hark back to the first two, well, particularly the first one, which brings us to the trailer for Afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
So as you said before, you watched it and you got emotional, and when you said that, I got flashbacks of. Do you remember when? I think it was the trailer for The Rise of Skywalker, and it was this guy watching it, and he just started. He was recording his reaction, and he just started crying on the trailer. It depends on what mood you're in. It's either touching or just hilarious.
Hilarious. Yeah.
But it's on hilarious now because it was so bad. But but I can see why you get emotional with stuff like that, particularly if it's something from your childhood and you see it's potentially done correct, and particularly it always comes after a cinematic heartbreak. Yeah. So the cinematic heartbreak for Star Wars was really the prequel trilogy, depending on who you talk to. Cinematic heartbreak for general Ghostbusters fans was Answer the Call. And then it's like, finally, they've got it right. They've got someone in charge. They've got was it Jason Reitman?
Jason, yeah.
Ivan's son.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
right.
the legendary Ivan who made the unofficial, the
Ghostbusters 3 and 4.
Ghostbusters 3 Evolution and Ghostbusters 4 My Super Ex-Girlfriend.
Yeah.
So we've mentioned Star Wars. back and forth referring to it. Now, my first reaction for the trailer, again, I haven't got that emotional connection to the Ghostbusters franchise. I thought it reminded me very much of The Force Awakens.
Yes, 100%.
So The Force Awakens for me was a cheap ploy to get everyone back on board with Star Wars, because The Force Awakens is essentially the original trilogy stuffed into one film. And from the trailer of Afterlife, that's the kind of impression I'm getting. But I'm seeing it from a negative side, but obviously it's kind of what the franchise needs.
To begin with.
Back to basics.
I'd agree, yeah. I mean, I made note about it. It feels very Force Awakens, not just in the fact that it's coming back, and it's a franchise that's coming back to life, and using characters that have previously been about Skywalkers and how the original Ghostbusters are going to be in it. But yeah, just taking it feels like it's it's going to have very similar beats to the first one. And I don't know. Yeah, you say you're coming at it from a negative point of view. I don't think, after Answer the Call, I don't think people were going to swallow just another, okay, we're going to set it in the Midwest, and it's going to be Jack Black, and it's going to be Will Ferrell, and it's going to be Ben Stiller, and which at one point there was rumours around 2009 that these were going to be in a Ghostbusters film, and Paul Rudd, ironically enough.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they were going to make this Ghostbusters film, but I don't think people would have settled for, it's just new Ghostbusters, and it's this daft, goofy sort of Will Ferrell, vehicle. I don't think people would. I think the producers have seen what they did with Star Wars. It's like there is such a well of emotion for those original characters and whatever, but we need to sort of pass it on. So they're kind of sort of playing it safe with them. There's plenty of stuff that, you 30, 40-year-olds are going to remember and love, but we're also just trying to pass it on now to this, new generation. And I think I understand your cynical eyes on it, thinking, well, it's quite cheap and quite easy thing to do. From growing up with it, just hearing Ray Stantz speak again, knowing that Harold Ramis has died, and from by the looks of the trailer, the way that they've incorporated him into the film, making it his legacy, making a bit about what he's left behind, and using his family. I thought it was a really good touch. And just having, again, a film about family, Ivan's son taking it. I just, as soon as I saw the very, very first teaser, I think it was just a long pan in on a shed, and the Ecto-1 under a sheet, and the wind blows it, and he used a big piece of the original score from Ghostbusters, and straight away I thought they know what they're doing. That they're saying, no, we're going back, and we're bringing back the original stuff that you like. And I just think from what I've read and what I've seen of the trailer, I just think he's gonna get it right. It's a film about family, about passing a massive legacy down, and that's what his dad's done to him. He's like, yeah, you go off and make that. And I've got really, really high hopes that it's going to be the film that it deserves to be. This will be the last time Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and Sigourney Weaver, they all get together and make a Ghostbusters film. We're pushing at a point where any of them, we've already lost Harold Ramis, any of them could go at any minute. And if the more of them start going, it's just going to feel really bad taste to be like, oh, well, we're doing another one, and they're involved in this way. It's the time to do it now. Everything's moved on, time to pass it on. And as long as I get those moments where you see I think they've released a toy line. I saw it on Instagram, and they've released a toy line, and they've got the older three Ghostbusters, Winston, Peter, and Ray in the outfits and stuff. So it kind of indicates that they are going to be in it in that way. And as long as I get a couple of minutes of that, throw in a terror dog chasing Paul Rudd, and the Ecto-1, of course. What a great shot, by the way, Ecto-1 in the field of wheat. That's one of my favourite.
I was going to say the actual look of the film is reassuring, because it was that to Answer the Call.
Yeah.
Very bright, colourful.
Day glow, yeah.
Gaudy.
Yeah, which, to be honest, is something that I've really not to mind about that. Again, it exists in like this separate way, and it's a very bright day glow. So the ghosts are very luminous, and it is a very gaudy film. But this is it's dulling it all again, and
it seems a lot closer to the first one, because the first one, in ways of cinematography, it wasn't. It was just. It seemed like it had. The style of it was no style, which lends itself to it a little bit more down to earth, real. Which this new one seems like that also, which is reassuring.
Yeah, it's. I'll be very surprised if I don't at least enjoy it. I'm not expecting to love everything about it. We are introducing. New characters and new, even though it is his son, he's going to have his own ideas about what he wants that film to be. So it's, I don't know, it's reassuring. He seems to, from the very first teaser, he seems to know what people, certainly my generation, are after. Is we want to see the old stuff again, just this one last time. And I think he's going to have he'll have a hard job, but I think he'll pull it off in balancing the two. It's the one gripe I've had about the trailer, and it's they did a whole own mini trailer thing that I don't know is promoted. I don't know what it is. The mini Stay Puffs.
I thought that was just a marketing clip.
It's still, when you look at it now, it still feels like one. It's like, this feels like an advert for marshmallows, or just I don't know. And I was kind of hoping by the time the next trailer happened that it'd be a weird dream that he has, but I don't know. It just looks a bit too Minions for me. It looks a bit Baby Yoda. It looks a bit. The producer we need something that kids will go mad for, and I'm trying to remember this is supposed to still be aimed at kids to a degree, and they'll want all the merchandise thing to be all locked in already, but just that just seems really out of place, and I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of interested in what universe this is going to take. Of course, it's the Ghostbusters universe that we know it takes place in, but the trailer kind of hints that kids of the age don't know anything about. Well, Ghostbusters, what are you talking about? It's like the world nearly ended twice.
The Statue of Liberty walked.
Yeah. Would you believe it? This is an insane world. A marshmallow man appeared out of the sky and almost killed as well. It'd be interesting to see how he handles that, because if you're trying to make it a bit more realistic, I don't know how you're going to pull that off. Even if it did happen a couple of generations ago, I'm sure people would have been talking about it. They handle it well in the second film. I always remember thinking all that happens in the first. And they take care of it within 5 minutes in the new film, and in Ghostbusters 2, with them saying, after we go to the party and all they want to see is He-Man and stuff.
He-Man!
I thought it was going to be He-Man. And then it's Ray and Winston saying, after all, we did this for this city, and we're getting sued by everybody in New York. And I just felt it kind of, within a couple of sentences, it dealt with it. It's like, we did everything, but they sort of turned it, the danger's over, which it was very, I don't know, it's a sort of very realistic human reaction to a major disaster happening. I think as people just get over it and they're like, oh no, get on with it. So I'm just intrigued to see how he handles what's happened, the past, which I suppose what the film is about a lot as well as the past. We've got a Goza's back, some of the ghosts are back and stuff. So
how do you feel about that? Because when I first noticed Goza and the the what, hellhounds, dogs, whatever they're called.
Terror dogs, apparently.
Terror dogs. I thought, well, are you that bankrupt of any new ideas, or is this all one big nostalgia fest? I was like that with it, because again, it goes back to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Pretty much did that for The Force Awakens. It was all, ooh, remember this? Ooh, you like memories, don't you?
Ooh, memories.
Oh, come see our film, yes. Oh, is that Gozer?
Yeah. No, I get that. And you know, I wouldn't have mind. You know, I wouldn't have mind. You know, of course, I want, you know, the idea of seeing one of the dogs. I love the shot in the trailer, even though the CGI is a little bit ropey. Of it bursting out, the dog bursting out of the supermarket and shit. You know, I thought it looked quite good, but I would have just needed to seen that. I don't need them to be in it constantly. You know, I would have liked like a new thing. You know, a new antagonist, but you know, he's dealing. He's you know, just the way Darth Vader sort of cast a shadow over the Force Awakens, you know, the helmet, and he's always the Emperor. You know, the way they turned out with the Emperor and stuff. I just think, yeah, we've just got to. Yeah, this is all familiar. You all remember Ghostbusters, don't you? Okay, now we've done that. Now we're moving on, and I fully expect if this film does well, they will continue. Because Sony have bought it, and they are trying to build like a proper franchise out of it, and I expect it to go further. But yeah, hopefully this is just the kick-off point.
Yeah, I think it's in a good position, to be honest, because it's come after all these reboots, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, etc., and they've all to some sort of extent failed for one reason or another. So it can easily learn from all the mistakes of its predecessors and know how far to really go with the memories, memory lanes, and the new additions. So I do think it's in a better position than most of the franchises to do that.
Yeah, to kick on. I mean, it's kind of get all the stuff that the likes of me are wanting out the way. Like, there's Ray and there's Peter, there's Dana Barrett, there's Janine, you know, there's the dog, there's the villains that you'll remember. One big send-off. You know, fully expect the kids to be the new Ghostbusters by the end of it. And then we move on and you see whatever they want to do with this, then fine. I've had my fill. I've got the first two films and you know, off you go.
I'm going to make a prediction now. I predict that they'll be in that little cave thing towards the end, or the mine shaft, and there'll be a great big drop. They'll be on a bridge, and it'll be Finn Wolfclaw, whatever his name is, the lad from Stranger Things. It'll be Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd, no, don't go to Gozer. She's a bitch. And then Finn Wolfclaw will pull out a lightsaber, stab him in the gut, and drop him down, and Sigourney Weaver will be on the balcony going, no!
I kind of want to see this version, the Dan Lewis cut.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. I'm looking forward to it, and you know, I'm glad I've had this little extra time to prepare. Really, I mean, it was supposed to be out last year, wasn't it? So, you know, after the first trailer, I was like, yeah, okay, okay. And then the mini puffs thing happened. But this trailer's really soothed my worries, and I'm really, really looking forward to that bit.
Yeah, I'm like I say, I've not got much vested emotion into it.
Yeah.
Despite me being quite pessimistic about it, I've got high hope. Well, I've got hopes for it. Maybe not high hopes, but I think I can be easily pleased by it if it just even tries to balance things right. And I quite like Paul Rudd. He never really puts a step wrong for me. I think he comes across really well on screen.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I've got this thing, and I'm starting to notice it now. Like I seem to dislike certain members of the filmmaking community for no apparent reason. And then I kind of check in with myself and say, well, why is that? First of all, it was Edgar Wright. I was like, I hate Edgar Wright. Don't like him. I was like, but I love space. Oh yeah, I love space. Yeah, I really like Shaun of the Dead. Yeah. Like Hot Fuster. Yeah, I like that. And Baby Driver's not my type of film, but I love that. I'm like, no, that's why do you not like Edgar Wright? Then I think it was his haircut at the time. And he's a slightly posh, but I shouldn't really hold that against him. And Paul Rudd's another one. I just had it in my mind. I don't like Paul Rudd. But I've enjoyed him in absolutely everything I've seen him in. So I don't know where that's coming from. And when it was announced that he was going to be in the new film, I was like, it ruins that. But already, just from the trailer alone, I'm like, no, he feels like he belongs in that film already. And, he can do the slightly weightier stuff and the comedy at the same time. So it was probably a really, really good choice. Thank God they didn't listen to me and my casting choices as well, I'll say.
Well, they've always got your ear. If you've got any concerns with the budget.
No. How much are we talking? No. Paul Rudd, he's quite A-list, isn't he? I don't know. You might have to scale back.
Yeah, hi, Jason. I've got serious concerns here, mate. The budget, I don't know what it is, but I think you've gone over. Can you just double check that for me?
That's my perfect job. It's Ged. Hello. Is this? Oh no, it's me hand. Probably my perfect job is worrying about film budgets. That's what they should have. The worrier. I should make a short, a 1940s Hollywood short. The worrier just goes around worrying about budgets on the biggest picture of the day.
Ged, come and fix the deficit.
Yeah. No, but I had. I do appreciate we've been through all four of the things that you wanted to talk about. I'm just checking my notes for any talking points that I've missed.
Check away.
So originally I had a couple of photographs that I wanted to share because I rewatched Ghostbusters last night, and I've never noticed before how much of a Scouser Lewis Tully is in terms of his attitude. I mean, I know he's very much a New Yorker, but he just comes across as one of them really fussy, weird Scousers that you get.
He is Matt Owen personified.
He is Matt Owen. I mean, if Matt Owen was fully grown in the 80s with the trackie that Lewis Tully's got on, and I just noticed the shoes as well. I haven't got a picture, but if you watch Ghostbusters again, just that it's a very. I mean, you could take him from that film and put him in Liverpool in the 80s. The Adidas trainees and the tracksuit are very, very.
Is it a Feeler trackie? I've got a Feeler trackie in my head for some reason.
Is it Feeler? I know his trainers are Adidas because I had quite a similar pair not long ago. But the tracksuit, I've got it here. I think it is Feeler. I think you're right. All that very, very same actually. But he's such a Scouser. He's such a Scouser, Lewis Tully. Very, those types that that admire the people that are always, they're always around people. Also, I've never noticed Dana Barrett's kitchen. By the way, the practical effects in that scene still
amazing.
To this day, I mean, it's so much 40 years old. How are you making eggs cook on that platform? I don't get it.
And why are the eggs so white in every single American film? They're white.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? But for the first time in the 200 times I've watched the film, a microwave has got like this oak veneer on. I'm thinking, was that an 80s thing, like an oak veneer microwave? Why do you want your microwave to look like wood?
That with tellies, didn't we remember?
Finish. Yeah, very, very strange. But yeah, that scene, the whole thing, practical effects wise, the first film, especially is the floating books in the library and stuff. I mean, it's obviously wires and stuff, but it's still.
I love watching an old film and you spot a wire.
Yeah. Throw a wire in,
Yeah.
it's a film. The library cards, when the librarians do it, and all the trays come out, and then the slips are flying up. I mean, that's terrifying. Still, it's just practical effects, and it makes a difference.
I was saying this to Matt a few weeks back. The current filmmakers that seem to lack the ingenuity for anything. It's always, it's all right, we'll fall back on CGI for that. Whereas, like the likes of James Cameron, like he got his start with Roger Corman doing really seriously low budget filmmaking. So he picked up the tricks of camera trickery, smoke and mirrors, and you don't really get that. And the first Ghostbusters had that in abundance.
It's full of it, isn't it? Absolutely full of it. Still one of them. I mean, I think I'm getting more scared of it the older I grow up. The scene where Dana sits in the chair and the arms go to the chair, and the way the chair like spins like a full, all the way around, and it's the way it's very jerky, and then flies towards the. I mean, that's absolutely terrifying even now.
For a supposed kids' film.
Yeah, I mean, it's the arms look like human arms, and just the way there's three of them. It's just like, no, that's not human. And it's really, really disturbing, but very effective.
I love the way, like back in the 80s, it was okay to scare the shit out of little kids.
Yeah, you don't get that anymore.
Like we had Ghostbusters, Return to Oz, The Witches. I think it's like late 80s, early 90s, but still, they were not afraid to give kids nightmares.
Yeah, they weren't, and we've lost that.
We have. I've not had a nightmare in years. Bring back the 80s, 90s.
Yeah, clever. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely don't make. It's a cliched thing to say, but they really don't make them like they used to. It's the ethics more. It's not so much the technique, but the ethics have changed in filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the first Ghostbusters, it is a kids' film, and yet Dan Aykroyd has sex with a ghost.
I mean, watching that, I mean, I didn't get that. Obviously, didn't get that for years. And
that was one for the adults.
One for the adults.
That one's for you, Mum and Dad.
And apparently, I believe in the script, in the original script, it was a lot more graphic as well. There was a lot more. To it. But even now, for that to be what's shown to be in a kids' film is really it's a PG Ghostbusters. You know what I mean? It's quite. I'm quite surprised that that's in there, really. But
did it start off? It didn't start off as a kids' film, did it? It was meant to be a film, wasn't it?
So yeah, Dan Aykroyd was really into the technology of the idea, and it was supposed to be slightly more futuristic, I believe. The outfits, the costumes were supposed to be slightly more futuristic. It was supposed to be a bit more tech heavy, and it was supposed to be quite serious as well. And I think when Harold Ramis got involved, they worked on it a little bit, and I was like, well, and it just started to get a bit funnier. And then it's like, we've got this one of the biggest stars around, Bill Murray. Let's get him involved. It was John Candy, and there were all different people in it at the time. And it gradually became a comedy. I think Ivan Reitman got involved with Ton Meatballs and Stripes and stuff, and we're doing another comedy. But it started a little bit more serious. And I'm going to hang myself for saying this, like Evolution. Evolution started as a serious comedy. Yeah.
Yes.
And Ivan Reitman got involved and turned it into a comedy. So I think that's his strength. Yeah. Thank God. I think we're supposed to be more serious, but there's some very, very adult moments in the film that you're like, how did that get in? This man has no dick and things like that. Just even now looking on it with today's eyes on certain characters' behavior, Peter Venkman's quite pushy and he's a bit with Dana especially. He's a bit too creepy, at times, and you're like, but would they? I mean, I don't think they do that nowadays. But there's just certain things that wouldn't happen now, and I'm just made up we've got it the way it is, because it is, most films are, good films are a testament to the time that they were made as well. And there's something about that film. You can have serious discussions of afterlife and, like it has. One of my favourite scenes in the film is Ray and Winston in the car, driving back from a job overnight, and then we start talking about the end of the world and the Bible and stuff. And then half an hour later, there's a marshmallow man walking down 8th Avenue in New York, and to be able to swing between comedy and horror that well, I mean, I don't really know that, especially nowadays. I don't know films that do it like that, unless you like. I know horror comedy exists, The Evil Dead, and a lot of Sam Raimi stuff is very, but it's not in the same way. It's a different horror comedy.
Different level, isn't it?
Different level. But it's such a special film. Another point that I wanted to make, I didn't write it down, but I just remembered it, is Dana gets possessed, and then when Venkman goes round, I notice that she's wearing this very, very seductive orange dress. And
oh, yes.
I've started thinking now, like, did she have that dress to begin with, or did Gozer bring that round? Is that?
Yeah, Dana put this on, girl.
Yeah, did it bring a couple of dresses to try on? What makes you look more possessed? Orange is a very possessed colour. Wear that. I don't know.
80s possessed screams orange.
Screams orange. Yeah. I presume you're supposed to believe that she's got that dress. Surely, she's got.
It's very out of character for her to have that dress,
because she's always dressed very quite smart, very New York, it's a very Upper West Side New York type of thing.
Yeah, very.
And then she's got this really crazy.
And to have that seductive number, that's a Gozer. Gozer's been shopping.
Been clothes shopping, yeah. But, we're about to possess somebody, let's go shopping.
Or do you think, Gozer already had this wardrobe? So what?
I just needed to do something with it.
So what if Gozer ends up possessing, I don't know, Bill Murray? Would Bill Murray be in the orange dress?
Yeah, it'd be just as tempting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's a very but it's just something that stuck out the more I watch it. It's like, where's this dress come from? Yeah,
it's like it's like superhero films, isn't it? Like, who makes the outfits?
Yeah, they go and get them made, a special tailor. Yeah. No, it's the something that I really like about Ghostbusters as well is the is it set design or production design? The certain things that you miss because I'm just watching it for the laughs. Like Ghostbusters 1, the amount of they tried to get so much like Gothic architecture in there. A lot of gargoyles, a lot of obviously Gozer's temple's quite dramatic and stuff. But yeah, just the little touch. I mean, the opening screen title Ghostbusters, there's like quite a Gothic-y statue in that shot, and it's just things that every time I watch it, there's something else that really sticks out. And I just think it's absolutely perfect. And I think it could only have been made at the point it was made for it to succeed. That cast, the time it was made in, those certain people all working on it, and the same goes for most big popular films. It was meant to be then.
Yeah, I mean the more we're talking about Ghostbusters, the looks, the themes, everything, the more and more in the back of my head I'm going, I really hate 2016 Ghostbusters now. Because it's clearly just way off the mark what it was. It's almost as if they hadn't seen the first Ghostbusters. They just got the general gist that there was 4 of them.
4 people plus ghosts equal film.
Yeah.
I just say I've grew to not mind it, and I'll never really. If somebody comes up and says, "Do you like Ghostbusters?" That's not going to be the film to think about. I haven't got that. I haven't got that dislike of it, that hatred for it. I'm at peace with that. It can exist It's just not the Ghostbusters I think of.
Well, that's kind of its saving grace, really. It didn't plant itself within the lore.
Yeah, it didn't. Yeah,
it did try and operate in a different space to the original, which I think, was a pretty nice thing to do in hindsight, because if it tried to like gag in on that, then it could have been we would have had to have a Star Trek type redo.
Yeah.
With time travel and different timelines.
And we haven't got the budget for that. So don't think about it. I mean, one more point about Answer the Call was ironically, for all the angry people, all the people who posted horrible things about the women in the cast and whatever. Ironically, I think the film's the weakest point of that is a man is Chris Hemsworth's role, and I not once does he make me laugh in that entire film. Him possessing people and dancing, him being that stupid, and that's the difference between the two films. Ghostbusters, the first and second, they can be daft at times. It doesn't rely on I don't know, just really, really juvenile, poor.
To be honest, I think the Chris Hemsworth character represents the cast's hatred towards men.
That's a good point.
I think it's a very sexist representation of men, because the only men in the film they're all stupid. It only seems to be the women that are intentionally funny, like intelligent, capable. Whereas you look at Chris Hemsworth, he is good looking but thick as pig shit. You got the mayor, who isn't a good mayor. The Secret Service guys who are useless. Roland, who is just weird, and I think it's.
I suppose even the guy who delivers the Chinese food's a bit incompetent.
Exactly, and
maybe they were striking back. To a degree, I mean, I didn't mind. Like, I think there's a joke in there that they say something about people online or whatever, and I didn't mind them having a go back. But it's just it's I don't want nobody deserves to be abused online. But it just what would have been the perfect tonic for that if it was just Bridesmaids level funny? It just knocked it out the park and was just like, there you go. Yeah, we can do that as much as you can. Yeah,
the biggest shame of it was that I was rooting for it, because everyone was on the back and just having a go at them just for being women and being overly protective of an intellectual property. I hadn't seen yet, and I was rooting for it, and I think that did cloud my judgment going to see it this time, and because I didn't want it to be a case of I don't want the sexist cave dwellers to win. But it just wasn't a great film for me.
Yeah, I understand.
But like we've said, it hasn't affected Ghostbusters in any way.
That time, that's a good point. Yeah.
So I think we've covered everything about Ghostbusters, Ged. So, Afterlife. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good do you think it's going to be? Or how do you hope it's going to be?
I just hope it's a solid film. I understand, as we've already discussed, he's got a bit of a job on his hands and bringing in the old stuff, and at the same time setting off a new journey for them. And I think that can be quite tricky. But everything I've heard, most of what I've seen, he seems to understand the weight of it all. Obviously, it's that probably his dad's biggest films that he's made and whatever. So he understands that this isn't any place to mess around and completely just try something and be there. And I think he'll be quite safe. But he's taken real care even down to things like the pink waves that escape that temple thing underground. He scanned them from the original film and stuff, so he's really taken care of it. All I can hope for is something really solid. It's got a bit of the old stuff in, and we get just what the original Ghostbusters was, which is just fun. I mean, in an hour and a half, the original film, you got 4 people getting kicked out, 3 people getting kicked out of university, and an hour and a half later, they've saved the world. And that is that's a tight hour and a half. That's a very tight hour and a half, and it's fun. And I just hope for the same. From what I've seen of the trailer, it will be. And I've got a good feeling. But we'll check back in once we've seen it.
Oh, most definitely. Well, Ged, thank you for coming on to the Memo by Death podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Indeed.
To you and get your thoughts on Ghostbusters. Mm-hmm. And thank you everyone who has watched. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below on your thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife. See you soon.
Good day, sir.